Listen to a conversation between a student and an art professor.
Hi, Dr. Morton. I'm Karen Stern. I met you briefly about a year ago when I was applying to the university. You were on a panel of professors, and you were talking about the art department.
Ah. And you're now a student here. I guess I said the right thing.
Yeah. Right now I'm doing the intro courses in the art department, but I'm really interested in painting.
Well, I teach several of the painting courses, so I hope to see you in the future.
Actually, I was wondering, you're in charge of student art exhibitions at the university gallery, right?
Right.
So I know all the exhibitors are students, but I was wondering how you choose the works you exhibit every month. Is there, like, a submission process or something?
No, there is a submission process, yes. We have a gallery review committee, but we already have our exhibitions planned for the rest of this school year. Generally, our exhibitors are third and fourth year students, well into their coursework.
Oh, well, I guess that'll be something to look forward to then. Tell me, do you show all kinds of paintings?
Well, actually, we started doing something different with the gallery this year. We're featuring a specific technique each month. Next month's exhibition, for instance, will feature drip paintings.
Really? Like Jackson Pollock?
Ah, so you're familiar with Pollock's work.
Well, sort of, though I've only seen photographs of it. I know he dripped paint onto the canvas instead of using a brush. I read he stretched out his canvases on the floor of his studio, and then he climbed up on a ladder to pour paint, ordinary house paint, from a can onto the canvas.
That's right. That was characteristic of Pollock in the late 40s, in what we call his drip period. And the object was to produce a constant stream of paint to create continuous lines. Because, as you know, when you use a brush directly on a canvas, you get broken lines. So, you like Pollock?
Yeah, I do. I like abstract works in general. There's a class on abstract art, right?
Actually, I teach that class. And drip painting was one of our themes last year. Some students from last year's class have continued experimenting with it. They've created some incredible pieces, using everything from squeeze bottles to computer-controlled sprayers.
Do they look a lot like Pollock's work?
Well, our goal wasn't to imitate Jackson Pollock. The object was to get students to look at different ways of applying paint to a canvas. But you don't have to enroll in a specific course to be invited to exhibit your work. It just has to fit the theme for one of our exhibitions.
Why does the student go to see the professor? Listen to part of a conversation between a student and his theater professor.
Hi, Professor Davis. Sorry I missed class yesterday. I was just getting over a cold.
That's all right, Andrew. Feeling better now?
Oh, yeah, fine. I had a question, though. For the midterm, how much do we need to know, about the different acting styles? Since the last few chapters have been on writing our own material, scripts and stuff, well, will the exam be about that, or about stuff from the earlier chapters?
Andrew, before I forget, and I will get to your question, but now don't leave without taking the tickets for tomorrow's field trip. I have a last-minute meeting, so I can't make it after all, but since you helped organize the trip, I'll let you hand out the tickets. I've got everything you need right here.
Sure, no problem.
And, you don't need directions to the theater. You've been there before, right?
Yep.
Good. Also, please remind everyone about the reception afterward. It'll be an opportunity to ask Alan Altman about his acting in the play, which, we can discuss in class next week.
Okay, I'll tell them. It's really something. I know our acting professors must be in plays all the time, but it isn't every day you get to see one right here in town.
Oh, you might be surprised. There's a calendar on the main bulletin board listing all the local productions that faculty are involved in.
Well, it seems like Professor Altman's a really popular actor. I just read his bio in the local paper. I know the critics always praise him, but I had no idea he was such a commercial success, too. And it said he just won an award last year for playwriting, wasn't it?
Well, there is a general playwriting category, but actually, his award was for script adaptation. He adapted a novel into a play.
Script adaptation?
Oh, it's a very specialized skill. Writing a play based on some other written work, novels, short stories. Now, we've been studying original plays, which are pretty much based on the writer's imagination. But think about adapting a script.
Yeah, Seems like it might be easier, like to start with something that's already written.
Well, actually, think about it. Transferring that material to a whole different genre. From narration to live dialogue. Imagination is a part of it, sure, but it also requires a lot of technical knowledge about theater production, acting, and so on. So Professor Altman, for example, he took a novel and made it into a play, dealing with all the different conventions that plays have. You know, like limitations of scene changes and, well, it'd be a good thing to ask him about at the reception tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds like an interesting topic.
Oh, and before I forget, the packet with the tickets has a list of the students' addresses. And since the van is picking you up first, you can direct the driver to the other students' dorms.
Sure, that was the plan.
Okay, good. Now, about the midterm.
What Listen are to the part speakers of a mainly conversation discussing? Between a student and his theater professor.
Hi, Professor Davis. Sorry.
Listen to a conversation between a student and an art history professor.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I was just a few doors down getting some help in the computer lab. My electronic files won't open. The technician says it's probably a computer virus. She's working on it now.
Yes, from what I've heard, lots of campus computers have been affected. What a first week, huh?
I know. Anyhow, I noticed your name on the door as I was walking down the hallway. Thought I'd stop in and, find out if you happen to have any additional copies of the class syllabus. The one I received in class the other day is missing a page.
Oh, sorry about that. I probably have a few extra printouts on hand.
Great! Oh, and I noticed on the syllabus we'll be learning about, and eventually writing a paper on, the Bauhaus style of art. Sounds interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
Right, but technically it doesn't say Bauhaus style of art. It only says the Bauhaus.
Oh, what's the difference?
Well, the Bauhaus is not really an artistic style, like Cubism. It was the name of an art and design school in Germany in the early 20th century. The Bauhaus was started as an experiment in education, and one groundbreaking technique used in its teaching was that students actively participated in workshops instead of just sitting in classes.
Interesting. I don't have much background in art or anything. I'm an economics major, and I'm taking this class as an elective. Decided I wanted to broaden my awareness, try something new.
Excellent. I'm really glad to hear that.
So, was the focus of the Bauhaus architecture? I mean, I've studied German, and Bauhaus translates into house for building.
Well, the founding director was an architect. However, he aimed to combine an incredibly broad variety of fine arts and crafts under one artistic roof. As a matter of fact, when the Bauhaus first opened, it was without an architectural department for several years. But later, it became very influential in architecture.
So I wasn't all wrong.
You'll see on the syllabus that you're required to visit the Rutherford Museum exhibit. The exhibit will help you see that there is no single Bauhaus style. I think it's refreshing that this particular exhibit departs from the standard ways in which art from the Bauhaus is often presented.
Which are?
Well, for example, by a specific artist. I think it's a mistake to focus on a single Bauhaus artist and that person's individual specialty. I mean, the different artists from the school created different things: fabric, sculpture, furniture, graphic design, paintings, even theatrical performances. The exhibit in the Rutherford Museum unites all these specialties through connecting themes, such as motion or the body.
Sounds fascinating. Say, I've heard something about discount nights at that museum.
Weekends are full price. It's typically best to go Thursday nights. That's student discount night, 50% off. However, next Wednesday is open to the public for free. It's a special promotion. So, I know what I'd do.
Why does the student want to talk to the professor? Listen to a conversation between a student and a business professor.
Thanks for seeing me, Professor Jackson.
Sure, Tom. What can I do for you?
I'm going to do my term project on service design. What you see as a customer, the physical layout of the building, the parking lot. And I thought I'd focus on various kinds of eateries, restaurants, coffee shops, cafeterias. So I'd also analyze where you order your food, where you eat, and so on.
Wait, I thought you were going to come up with a hypothetical business plan for an amusement park. Isn't that what you emailed me last week? I could have sworn... Oh, I'm thinking of a Tom from another class. Tom Benson. Sorry.
No problem. I did email you my idea too, though.
Oh, that's right. I remember now. Restaurants, yeah.
So, here's my question. I read something about service standard that kind of confused me. What's the difference between service design and service standard?
Service standard refers to what a company, employees, are ideally supposed to do in order for everything to operate smoothly, the protocols to be followed.
Oh, okay.
So backing up, service design is, think of the cafeteria here on campus. There are several food counters, right? All with big, clear signs to help you find what you're looking for. Soups, salads, desserts. So you know exactly where to go to get what you need. And when you're finished picking up your food, where do you go?
To the cash registers.
And where are they?
Right before you get to the seating area.
Exactly. A place that you would logically move to next.
You know, not every place is like that. This past weekend was my friend's birthday, and I went to a bakery in town to pick up a cake for her party. And the layout of the place was weird. People were all in each other's way, standing in the wrong lines to pay, to place orders. Oh, and another thing, I heard this bakery makes really good apple pie, so I wanted to buy a slice of it too.
Okay.
There was a little label that said apple pie, where it's supposed to be, but there wasn't any left.
And that's what's called a service gap. Maybe there wasn't enough training for the employees, or maybe they just ran out of pie that day. But something's wrong with the process, and the service standard wasn't being met.
Okay, I think I get it. Anyway, since part of the requirements for the term project is to visit an actual place of business, do you think I could use our cafeteria? They seem to have a lot of the things I'm looking for.
Well, campus businesses like the cafeteria or bookstore don't quite follow the kinds of service models we're studying in class. You should go to some other local establishment, I'd say.
I see.
But just call the manager ahead of time so they aren't surprised.
Why does the student go to see the professor?
Listen to a conversation between a student and a theater professor.
Hi, Professor Jones.
Hey, didn't I see you at the performance of Crimes of the Heart last night?
Yeah, actually my roommate had a small part in it.
Really? I was impressed with the performance. There sure are some talented people here. What did you think?
You know, Beth Henley's an okay playwright. She's written some decent stuff, but it was a little too traditional, a little too ordinary, especially considering the research I'm doing.
Oh, what's that?
On the Polish theater director Jerzy Grotowski.
Grotowski? Yeah, that's a little out of the mainstream. Pretty experimental.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I had a question about our essay and presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, some of these ideas, Grotowski's ideas, are really hard to understand. They're very abstract, philosophical, and, well, I thought the class would get more out of it if I acted out some of it to demonstrate.
Interesting idea. And what happens to the essay?
Well, I'll do the best I can with that, but supplement it with the performance. You know, bring it to life.
All right, but what exactly are we talking about here? Grotowski, as I'm sure you know, had several phases in his career.
Right. Well, I'm mainly interested in his idea from the late 1960s, of poor theater, you know, a reaction against a lot of props, lights, fancy costumes, and all that. So it'd be good for the classroom. I wouldn't need anything special.
Yes. I'm sure a lot of your classmates are unfamiliar with Grotowski, and this would be good for them.
Right. And this leads, I think there's overlap between his poor theater phase and another phase of his, when he was concerned with the relationship between performers and the audience. I also want to read more and write about that.
You know, I saw a performance several years ago. It really threw me for a loop. You know, you're used to just watching a play, sitting back, but this performance, borrowing Grotowski's principles, was really confrontational, a little uncomfortable. The actors looked right in our eyes, even moved us around, involved us in the action.
Yeah, I hope I can do the same when I perform for the class. I'm a bit worried, since the acting is so physical, that there's so much physical preparation involved.
Well, some actors spend their whole lives working on this, so don't expect to get very far in a few weeks. But I'm sure you can bring a couple of points across. And if you need some extra class time, let me know.
No, I think I can fit it into the regular time for the presentation.
Okay. I think this will provide for some good discussion about these ideas and other aspects of the audience and their relationship to theatrical productions.
What are the speakers mainly discussing? Listen to a conversation between a student and an employee in the University Career Services Center.
Hi, can I help you?
One of my sociology professors suggested that I come to the Career Services Center and talk to you. She thought there was going to be a career fair soon where I could talk to different companies about a possible summer job.
Well, there's our Classroom to Corporation career fair. That's our largest fair every year. We get representatives from over 100 companies, and they actually conduct interviews right here on campus.
Great. What kinds of companies?
This year, we'll have representatives from all the major technology companies in the area.
Oh, then I don't know how helpful that'll be. I'm a sociology major.
Well, that's fine. Sociology students often get jobs in marketing, administration, human resources. Tech companies have openings in those areas.
Well, I'm mainly interested in working with people, in human services.
Well, in that case, we do have a smaller fair coming up with smaller companies and some public service organizations. This one might be a better fit for you.
Yeah, I think that's the one my professor was talking about.
Most likely. Now, have you been to a fair like this before?
Not really, but I just show up and talk to different companies, right? I don't have to register or anything, do I?
No, you don't have to register, but I highly recommend that you come prepared.
Prepared?
You should dress professionally and have copies of your resume with you.
Copies of my resume? Do I really need that?
Well, it's not a requirement, but a lot of students come to our career fairs. Plus, we've opened up these fairs to the public, to people in the neighboring communities. So anything you can do to make yourself look more, look more professional, that's going to set you apart from the other job applicants.
I don't even have a resume. I've never written one before.
Oh, that's not a problem at all. Have you been to our new website? It has all sorts of information about how to write a resume. And once you've written it, you can make an appointment to bring it in to us at the Career Services Center and have someone look at it with you.
Okay, so I really need to have a resume just to get a summer job?
Well, that depends on the company, but it's a good idea to have one.
Okay, I guess I'll need to have one sooner or later anyway.
Oh, and we'll be adding other information to our website eventually. We'll have a list of the companies that are going to be at the career fair by the end of the week. You should check it out, and then maybe do some research on the companies. That should help you when you talk to them, too.
What is the conversation mainly about?
Listen to a conversation between a student and his ecology professor.
How's it going, Tom?
Great. I wanted to tell you. You know the guest speaker you brought into class last week from the Wildlife Conservation Center?
Susan Brown, yes. She's an old friend from graduate school.
Her talk on wildlife population modeling, well, it was very theoretical.
It was certainly a change of pace from what we usually do.
Yeah, but I think I pretty much followed along. Plus, I like to see people get so passionate about ecology.
Oh, right. Ecology's your major field of study, isn't it? Yes, Susan Brown's certainly a lively speaker. What a shame she didn't go into teaching.
Anyway, a while ago I saw this blurb in the school paper about an exchange program that's part of the study abroad office. And today there was a booth set up in the student center with a couple of students answering questions about the university's programs in foreign countries. Seeing the booth reminded me about the article in the paper and...
Thinking about going abroad in the coming year?
Actually, I just spent last summer studying in Tokyo. I think that satisfied my urge to travel.
It must have been quite an experience.
Definitely. Taking all those language courses was really challenging. But what I wanted to find out at the booth was... It's a domestic exchange program, not studying abroad, but studying for a year somewhere else here in the United States.
I don't think I've heard of that.
Well, neither had the guys in the booth. They didn't know what I was talking about. But when I talked to the supervisor in the study abroad office, it turns out we're part of a group of universities throughout the U.S. that does a domestic exchange program.
Huh. So you spend, what, a year at another university and your classes count toward your degree here?
Yeah, and I'd pay the same fees, tuition, room, and board, that I pay here, so it doesn't really cost any extra.
Interesting.
And you know, I've lived here in southern Florida my whole life, and I've always been interested in Montana. The university in Montana, where I want to go, has classes that deal specifically with the ecology there. Like, I'm interested in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. It's such an important ecosystem, being the source of 3 major rivers, and I want to learn more about it.
Wow, this is a unique idea. The climate, the plants, and wildlife. It's really different from here. Probably the culture, too, in a way. And don't forget about all the outdoor activities you could do there. Hiking, skiing, and the national parks.
That's true. Anyway, I'll have to get my application together in the next month or so, and I'll need 2 letters of recommendation, one from a professor in my major department.
Consider it done.
Thanks.
What do the speakers mainly discuss?
Listen to a conversation between a student and his anthropology professor.
Well, Matthew, good to see you. How can I help you?
Did you happen to read last weekend's art section of the newspaper?
Yes, I did. Why?
Well, you remember the article about an exhibition of ancient featherwork pieces from Peru? I'm thinking of doing my research paper on this topic, if it's okay with you, of course. I've done some additional reading about ancient Peruvian cultures, how they used brightly colored feathers to decorate clothes and ceremonial objects. From the pictures I've seen, they're beautiful works of art.
They sure are. I saw the exhibition a few days ago. But is that how you'd approach Peruvian featherwork in your paper? As an art form? Remember, you need to take an anthropological angle. Look at this in a way that tells us something about the people who made this featherwork and the societies they lived in.
Well, absolutely. I read that most of the really colorful feathers came from the rainforest, and the societies who used them lived on the coast on the other side of the Andes Mountains. So the feathers had to be carried over the Andes. No wonder featherwork was a symbol of high status in ancient Peruvian societies.
Well, that's definitely a long, dangerous trip to make on foot. I do research down in Peru, and I've made that trip, but the easy way. I've flown and driven.
I didn't know you did research in Peru. Maybe... Do you think you'd be able to help me with this paper?
I'll be happy to help if I can, but Peruvian featherwork isn't my area of expertise. You know, very few pieces of featherwork survive because feathers decay so quickly. Not many people have had a chance to study them up close. There's a handful of experts out there who have, and I could try to contact some of them, but I think your best bet is to keep reading and finding more books and articles. And of course you can use the information you got at the exhibition as source material, too. You have been to the exhibition, haven't you?
Actually, not yet.
Well, it would be a good idea if you went, don't you think? It's good that you've done some background reading, but it will make more sense when you actually see the featherwork. There's a lot of information available there from booklets, tour guides, and you could even ask to meet with a curator and ask for her insights.
Listen to a conversation between a student and his anthropology professor.
Well, Matthew, good to see you. How can I help?
Listen to a conversation between a student and a university theater manager.
I'm sorry if my email wasn't clear. It's probably best that we're meeting now. I have a lot of questions.
So do I. But first let me say that I'm so glad that this tradition is continuing. I guess for the last 20 years now, every senior class has put on a Shakespeare play.
It won't be anything like the drama department's productions in the main theater, but we're really excited. We're doing As You Like It this year.
Great. Let's start with the timing. You want the production to run on 2 consecutive nights, a Thursday and Friday?
Right. The end of April would be best. Maybe the last Thursday and Friday? We're flexible with the dates.
The only bookings at the small theater are some recitals in the beginning of the month, so I'll make sure to get it on the calendar. But your other questions, let's see. You want to use fire on stage?
Well, our idea is to reproduce the conditions of an Elizabethan playhouse. Make it as authentic as possible. And of course, they didn't have electric lights 500 years ago. So we thought if we had candles, a lot of candles actually.
To light the stage?
Yeah.
Okay, you'd need a special permit. You could get one from the city council, but for one thing, it's difficult and time-consuming to get permission, and expensive. And it's not just the permit. You'd have to pay for an inspection and to have a fire marshal present at the shows.
That does sound expensive. If we had a budget like the drama department. But it looks like we'll have to scale back a bit.
Are you charging admission?
There'll be a small admission fee. In Shakespeare's time, if you paid a little more, you got a more comfortable seat. I don't see how we could do that, though. I mean, all the seats are the same, right?
Right. I guess you could charge more for the seats up front, but it's a small theater.
And there isn't much difference between the front and the back.
Anyway, for lighting, you could buy those electric lanterns that are made to look as if they have a natural flame.
If that's the best we can do, not exactly authentic, though.
But safer and less expensive. And about the food.
Selling food was also done in Shakespeare's time. It's related to the candles, actually. When the candles burned down, they stopped the play so they could bring out new ones, and that's when they sold snacks. That's how the custom of having an intermission started.
I'd always thought intermissions began as a way to change the scenery.
Oh, speaking of scenery, do you have the exact dimensions of the stage?
Sure. Why does the student visit the man?
Listen to a conversation between a student and the program manager of the university radio station.
Hi, I'm Jim, the guy who's trying to get a new show.
Right, Jim.
My application got turned down, and, I'm not sure why. So, I wonder if you could explain.
I'm glad you came in, Jim. I was actually quite impressed with your application.
Okay.
But the thing is, we run a music station here, not a talk station. We've been a music station since the beginning, since the station's inception.
This is where I get confused, because of the article in last month's campus newspaper about the poll?
Yes, the survey.
I mean, a majority of students said they felt the station was stale, that it needed a breath of fresh air. Well, how are you supposed to get fresh air if you keep all the windows and doors closed? I was just trying to open some windows for people.
I can tell you have a lot of passion for this, but I'm really not convinced it's a good idea. Okay, the first thing is, again, this is a music station. If we just have that one call-in show, it just doesn't fit in with what we're doing. And studies have shown that mixed format stations just aren't as successful as... Look, we do want to innovate, but within the format. And with a live call-in show, well, for one thing, you have no idea what the caller's going to say. No idea what you could end up broadcasting.
I understand, but that seems like a small risk to take in exchange for giving students a chance to talk publicly, interactively, about issues they care about. I really think they'd like to have a place where they can air their views about current events, about the university.
But the university already has that. There's a monthly meeting open to all students to discuss issues like the ones you mentioned in your application. And there are several student clubs on campus that discuss current events. But either way, we have no plans to change the format. Now, if you had an innovative idea for a new music program...
Well, how about a music program that includes taking calls from listeners?
You really are determined to have a call-in show, huh?
Well, I'm a communications major, and I'm hoping to get an internship at a professional talk radio show in the city next year. I thought a little experience with the college station might help.
Tell you what, there's still some time before the application deadline. Why don't you submit a new application with the music show idea that you just proposed? Then we'll see if we can work something out.
Okay, thanks.
What are the speakers mainly discussing?